Good evening, my dear students. Welcome to V3 channel. Okay, NEET exam postponed to and September 13. Okay, and during this period, how much time is there? Nearly 1.5 month. 1.5 month. In 1.5 month, and which topic you are feel difficult that and that you can cover the difficult topics. In NCERT book, you can cover the each and every word, including corner words or corner topics also. Then automatically you can cross 300 to 330 marks, 350 or 330, 350. Then if you got in more marks in the biology, botany and zoology, and automatically in chemistry 100, and in physics and 100 above chemistry, and physics 80 to 100, automatically can cross the 5 to 550. Automatically your success in the NEET examination. Okay, yesterday we discussed and histology and anatomy of flowering plants. Okay, and what is the definition of tissue? Who is the father of anatomy? And so what is histology? What is anatomy? How many types of tissues are there? So mainly there are two types of tissues: meristematic tissue and permanent tissues. But what is the difference between the meristematic tissue and permanent tissue? Meristematic tissue, actively dividing cell, they developed from the embryonic stage, which are present in the root apex and shoot apex, which is useful for the linear growth of the plant body or primary plant body. Then later in another meristematic tissue is called as the lateral meristem. Lateral meristem useful for the increasing width or diameter of the root or stem, and is called as a secondary and meristem. Secondary growth occurred by secondary meristem. Very important repeated question. What is the examples of the secondary meristems? Secondary meristems also called as a lateral meristem. Examples of the lateral meristem: vascular cambium. Vascular cambium means vascular cambium produces secondary xylem and secondary phloem. Cork cambium produces in the cortex, secondary cortex and phloem. Then next, after that, meristematic tissue. So, and simple tissue. Simple tissue is a permanent tissue. But what is permanent tissue? For example, this is the shoot apex. Shoot apex, it contain or consist actively dividing meristem, which are divided. Cell walls are made up of cellulose. Meristems, cell walls are made up of cellulose. So then thin cell wall deposition, they divided continuously, increasing and length of the root and stem, occurred by the apical primary meristem. So then next, what is the permanent tissue? Meristem means this is the function of the meristem. But what is the next type of tissue? Permanent tissue. Permanent tissue divided into simple tissue and complex tissue. Permanent tissues. So for example, just now I told you, so not just now, last class, parenchyma, collenchyma, sclerenchyma, vascular cambium, cork cambium. So all the type of plant tissues, they are developed from the meristematic tissue. For example, this is one cell. This cell divided produces another cell. This is again divided produces another cell. Only apical, root or stem, meristematic tissue and divided continuously, increasing length of the shoot and root. But remaining tissues are, they are non-divisible. What are the tissues? Parenchyma, collenchyma, sclerenchyma, vascular cambium, cork cambium. And these are all the formed from the meristematic tissue. Here one more important definition, already you studied in the plant growth regulator differentiation. The process of formation of matured tissue from the meristematic is called as a differentiation. But during the formation of various types of tissue, Parenchyma, collenchyma, sclerenchyma. Parenchyma is a living tissue. Sclerenchyma is a dead tissue. Either dead tissue or living tissue, they are formed from the, developed from the and meristematic tissue. Then later they are present in the plant body, they perform different function. Are you clear? What is the permanent tissue? They are developed from the meristematic tissue, they loses division capacity, they perform different function. There are two types of permanent tissue, simple tissue and complex tissue. Simple tissue again divided into three types. What are the three types of simple tissues? Parenchyma, collenchyma, sclerenchyma. Simple tissues is a permanent tissue. There are three types of simple tissue: parenchyma, collenchyma, sclerenchyma. Parenchyma is a living tissue, collenchyma is a living mechanical tissue, and sclerenchyma is a dead tissue. But what is the difference between the living tissue and dead tissue? Protoplasm is present, nucleus is present, in plant cell means vacuole is present, and cell organelles are present in the living tissue. Dead tissue means no protoplasm, empty space is present, lumen. Empty space is called as a lumen. That is the important difference between the living and dead tissue. Either living tissue and dead tissue all are formed from the, and they are all the mature tissue which are present in the plant body, they are developed from the meristematic tissue. Next, first one, parenchyma is a simple tissue. It is a ground tissue. Parenchyma also called as a ground tissue. Also, division of the labor. Division of labor. The shape of parenchyma is spherical or oval or isodiametric shape. Okay, parenchyma is a living tissue. Living tissue. What is living tissue means? Which containing protoplasm, nucleus, vacuole are present in the living tissue. Parenchyma is a living tissue, ground tissue, division of the labor. The shape of parenchyma is spherical shaped or oval shaped or isodiametric shaped. The parenchyma cell walls are made up of cellulose. Parenchyma cells, for example, this is a parenchyma. Parenchyma. In this, cells are covered by cellulose. Parenchyma cells are deposited by or made up of by cellulose. And intercellular spaces are present. But what is meant by intercellular spaces? The gap present between the cells is called as intercellular spaces. Intercellular spaces. Majority of the plant body occupied by parenchyma. Parenchyma. If you remember, so pericycle in roots, medulla, medulla res, and general cortex are all the made up of parenchyma. When comparatively there are three types of simple tissues, majority of the plant body, for example, bryophyta plant body made up of parenchyma. While you are studying in the inner outermost layer of the pericycle, medulla, medulla res, and Medullum also called as a pith. Medulla is present in dicot stem. General cortex. General cortex means between the and outer cortex and inner cortex, and middle cortex is called as a general cortex. And otherwise in the leaf, upper and lower epidermis between the palisade and spongy tissue, which also made up of parenchyma. So once again, Sinana, parenchyma is a living tissue, ground tissue, division of the labor. The shape of the parenchyma is spherical or oval, isodiametric, and then later, and the parenchyma cells are made up of, are deposited by cellulose. Intercellular spaces are present. Majority of the plant body occupied by parenchymata tissue. Based on function, based on function. Based on the function, there are different types of parenchyma. Chlorenchyma, erenchyma, storage parenchyma, storage parenchyma. Based on the function, there are three types of parenchyma: chlorenchyma, erenchyma, and storage parenchyma. For example, chlorenchyma. For example, this is the chlorenchyma. The cells of parenchyma which possess chloroplasts. Chloroplasts. What is the function of chloroplast? Green color leaves perform photosynthesis and perform photosynthesis. Photosynthesis. But where is present in the this type of parenchyma? Between the upper and lower epidermis in the leaf. Mesophyll tissue. Mesophyll differentiated into a spongy and palisade. In mesophyll tissue contain or possess chloroplast. When chloroplasts are present in the parenchyma tissue, perform photosynthesis. Which parenchyma possess or containing chloroplast, perform photosynthesis. Such parenchyma is called as a chlorenchyma. Photosynthesis also called as assimilation. Assimilation means don't confuse. It is nothing but photosynthesis. Okay, based on the function. And first type is chlorenchyma. Chlorenchyma means simply the cells of the parenchyma, it consists or contain chloroplast. Chloroplast perform photosynthesis. Such parenchyma is called as a chlorenchyma. Chlorine means chloroplast, just simply remember. Then later, erenchyma. In some hydrophytic plants, for example, this is the cell. Larger intercellular spaces. Larger intercellular places. Cellular spaces present in the and parenchyma tissue. Such parenchyma is called as a eremparenchyma, which is present in the aquatic plants or hydrophytes. But what is the use of? Why it is present? What is the use? Useful for the floating on the surface of the water or buoyancy. Buoyancy means nothing but floating. Means some plants presence of the large intercellular spaces. Large intercellular spaces are present in the parenchyma tissue, which is helps to buoyancy or floating surface of the water. Then later last one, storage parenchyma. So for example, we are eating fruits. But why we are eating? Because of it is storage food material. That food material is stored in the parenchyma tissue. Which type of tissue? Storage food material. Such parenchyma is called as a storage parenchyma. Seeds or fruits and edible part of the plants. Then later and secretion, very important. So based on the function, there are 4 types of parenchyma. What are the 4 types? And so chlorenchyma, erenchyma and storage parenchyma, secretion. And chlorenchyma means which parenchyma it is, and the mesophyll cells of the leaves possess chloroplast, perform photosynthesis. Such parenchyma. And chlorenchyma, large intercellular spaces which helps in the buoyancy or floating is called as erenchyma. Which parenchyma? Storage food material. Such parenchyma is called as a storage parenchyma. Example, fruits and leaves. And which edible part of the plant's storage parenchyma is called as storage food material in the parenchyma is called as storage parenchyma. Secretion. This is about the and parenchyma, simple tissues. The next, after that, other simple tissue. Coming to the next simple tissue is collenchyma. Okay, coming to next simple permanent tissue is a collenchyma. Collenchyma is a living mechanical tissue. Living tissue means parenchyma. Living mechanical tissue means collenchyma. Collenchyma. So the shape of the collenchyma is spherical or oval or cylindrical. The cells of the collenchyma is colonocytes. Cells of collenchyma is called as colocytes. So collenchyma, very important. Collenchyma, this type of tissue present below the epidermis of dicot stem. Very important. Collenchyma is a simple permanent tissue. It is a living mechanical tissue. When you are observe the dicot stem, this is the outermost layer is called as a epidermis. Below the epidermis, 1 or 2 layered or few layered thick walled without intercellular spaces is called as a collenchyma. This is called as a collenchyma. Very important, repeated in the competitive examination. The collenchyma, this portion also called as a hypodermis. In dicot stem, below the epidermis, few layered thick walled without intercellular spaces tissue is called as a hypodermis. Hypodermis is made up of collenchyma. So it is absent in the and most of the roots and leaves. Collenchyma is absent in the leaves and roots, but in some leaves present in, where it is present? Leaf margins and petiole. What is petiole? Stalk of the leaf is called as a petiole. When heavy rainfall and due to the environmental condition, the plant body shows or exhibits the flexibility. What is flexibility means? Due to the heavy rain or heavy wind, the plants are bent towards the one side. Again, it is not breaking. Why it is not breaking? After bending, why it is not breaking? Because the presence of the collenchyma. And the collenchyma cells are made up of or deposits cellulose, hemicellulose, pectin. But the cell wall deposition is present in the only corners. This is the corner, this is the corner. Pectocellulose. This is, for example, this is one cell. The cell covered by cell wall deposited by cellulose, hemicellulose, pectin. So, hence it is called as pectocellulose. Pectocellulose is present in the only corners in collenchyma tissue. For example, when comparatively parenchyma, the cellulose is deposited and throughout the cell wall. But in collenchyma, cells made up of collenchyma cells made up of cellulose, hemicellulose, pectin. So, hence it is called as a pectocellulose. Pectocellulose cellulose deposition is only corners of the cells in collenchyma. Intercellular spaces are absent. Intercellular spaces are absent. So, once again see children's, collenchyma is a permanent simple tissue. It is a living mechanical tissue. The shape of the collenchyma is spherical or oval cylindrical. Cells of the collenchyma is called colocytes. And it is the tissue present below the epidermis. Below the epidermis in dicot stem, tissue is called as hypodermis. Hypodermis is made up of collenchyma tissue. Then also it is present in the leaf margins. What is leaf margin? This is called as a leaf margins. This is called as a leaf margin. This collenchyma is present in the leaf margins. But next, and also petiole. Stalk of the leaf is called as a petiole. The plant body shows flexibility. How it shows flexibility? Due to the presence of the collenchyma tissue. The cells are made up of cellulose, hemicellulose, pectin, hence it is called as a pectocellulose, and intercellular space are absent. When compared to parenchyma, intercellular space are present and absent. Cell wall deposited cellulose, hemicellulose, pectin, but so only in the corners. Based on the diagram, only if when corners are present in the cellulose deposition and cell wall deposition, collenchyma. Total cell is present is called as a parenchyma. Parenchyma. So, next one, sclerenchyma. Sclerenchyma, dead mechanical tissue. Dead mechanical tissue. The cell walls are made up of lignin, suberin, cutin, mainly lignin. So, no protoplasm. Empty space is called as a lumen. So, where it is present? Where it is present in the sclerenchyma and different parts of the plant body. So, sclerenchyma is a dead mechanical tissue and cells are deposited by lignin mainly. So, for example, when cell walls are deposited by are made up of by cellulose, hemicellulose, the cells become a thin walled. Just now we are discussing parenchyma, collenchyma, meristematic tissue, cells are made up of cellulose. Cellulose means thin walled cells. Then when cell walls are deposited by lignin or suberin or cutin, for example, endodermal, already you studied in transport in plants, and apoplast and symplast. And what is apoplast? Movement of continuous water through the intercellular spaces. Endodermal cells are made up of suberin. What is the suberin? Thick walled cell, thick cell walled deposition. Presence of the suberin and thick walled, it is not allowed, not permeable to the water into the from the root hairs to the root xylem. So, then later, because of lignin, suberin, cutin is a thick walled cell, thick cell wall deposition. Dead cells means, just now I said no protoplasm. No protoplasm. Without protoplasm, the total inside the cell empty space is present. That empty space is called as a lumen. Sclerenchyma, there are two types of cells. One is the fibers. Another one is the sclerites. Okay, sclerenchyma, dead mechanical tissue. Sclerenchyma, there are two types of, and sclerenchyma fibers and sclerites. But what is the fibers means? They are elongated cells with tapering ends or sharp ends. Elongated cells with tapering or sharp ends. These cell walls are deposited by, made up of by lignin. Made up of lignin. The empty space is called as, inside no protoplasm, this total empty space is called as a lumen. Empty space is called as a lumen. But what is the fibers? What are the fibers? They are intervening one fiber to the another fiber, and these fibers are commercially used and making different types of bags, gunny bags, jute bags. There are different types of fibers. They are giving fibers, not only making and jute bags, also they are giving mechanical support to the plant body. Then next one, scleroids. Next one, scleroids. What are the scleroids? The shape of the scleroids are cylindrical, spherical or cylindrical. So these spherical or cylindrical scleroids also made up of or deposited by lignin. And empty space, no protoplasm, empty space is called as a lumen. Such type of scleroids are present in, very important, pulp of guava, sapota, pears, and scleroids are present in seed coat of legume. Legume means, already you studied pea, Pisum sativum, pea, and beans. So they are all belongs to leguminaceae plant. This pea and Pisum sativum seed coat consist containing scleroids. Leaves of tea and also cherries, walnut also containing scleroids. Okay, once again childrens, sclerenchyma is a dead mechanical tissue. Cell walls deposited by lignin or suberin or cutin. In such dead cells means no protoplasm and empty space is called as a lumen. How many types of sclerenchyma? There are two types, fibers and scleroids. What is fibers? Elongated cells with tapering ends. Then later these fibers also made up of lignin. My fibers are also deposited by lignin. Empty space is called as a lumen, and they are giving mechanical support to the plant body. Then let another type of sclerenchyma is called as a scleroids. Scleroids also same, the different shape when comparatively, and they are the spherical or cylindrical shape of the scleroid. These cells also, types of sclerenchyma cells also deposited by lignin. Empty space is called as a lumen. Then later scleroids are present in pulp of the guava, sapota, pears, and seed coat of the legume, leaves of tea and walnut. And also in fibers it containing pits are present. In the cell walls deposited by pits, they are called as a simple pits or border pits are present on the fibers. So this is about the simple tissues. How many types of simple tissues? There are three types: parenchyma, collenchyma, sclerenchyma. What is the difference between the cell wall deposition? Parenchyma cell walls are made up of cellulose. Collenchyma cell walls are made up of cellulose, hemicellulose, lignin. And sclerenchyma cell walls are deposited by lignin. Thick walled deposition. Intercellular spaces are present in parenchyma. Intercellular spaces are absent in collenchyma. Then later, next, the sclerenchyma present in the parts of the plant body is very important. Then after that, so what is the permanent tissues means? What is the permanent tissue? They loses division capacity. What I told you? Permanent tissue loses division capacity. Then after division capacity, for example, meristematic tissue, for example, this is a stem. Meristematic tissue means and divide elongation of the root and stem. Then later, these are also parenchyma, collenchyma, sclera, they are developed from the meristematic tissue. They perform different function. Parenchyma, it perform presence of the chloroplast, perform photosynthesis. Presence of the large intercellular spaces, buoyance are floating. Then later storage parenchyma, storage food material, based on this character. That means these different types of permanent tissues loses division capacity, perform different function. But what is the point location of collenchyma? In dicot stem, below the epidermis, hypodermis is present. Hypodermis made up of collenchyma. But what is the function of collenchyma? They are, when the plants are bending or showing flexibility, they are not breaking. Again comes to the same position due to the presence of the collenchyma. Sclerenchyma also giving mechanical support to the plant body. So this is the important differences between the parent, colon, sclerenchyma. They perform different function. They are the mature tissues. They developed from the meristematic tissues.